Yes, sir. Yeah, very
Good
nice.
stuff.
Hey, everybody, this is Jimi Bell, and I'm here for another episode of Beyond the Strings right here at Jimi Bell Studios. I renamed it. I own the place now. I bought out Andy and everything. It's all great. Anyway, RHCTV right here in beautiful Rocky Hill, Connecticut. And I am super excited to have my longtime friend, Nano Sciucco, and him and I go way back. We even, I believe we even had some lessons together, didn't we, back in the day?
We did.
Anyway,
yes.
First off, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you for
Great
having
to have
me.
you on.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about, all right, first off, before we even talk about lessons,
Yes.
every time I go to your house,
Yes.
I see this great photo. You have it in a case of a guitar that you won. Now, did you win that guitar, or how did that happen where you got to meet Ricky Medlock from Blackfoot, now Leonard Skinner? That was, is that all the same thing? Or is that
Yes.
Okay.
No. Absolutely. So I was on vacation in Lake George with I think my oldest sister took me and a friend of mine. You know, one of those like we're right at that age, like 14, and my other sister, the middle sister, she walked into a Record Express in Windsor, and she knew the people that worked there from high school, and it was just a drawing, and it was just put your name. So she's like, well, I'm going to put my little brother's name in because he plays guitar. Then I get a phone call in the middle of the vacation, and they're like, you won, and you have to get back here. And I'm like, okay. And, you know, this is 1980. I was like 13 or 14, so 83, 84. So, you know, we're driving back, and we're listening to, I believe it was WHC. Yeah. And
I'm the oldest guy in rock and roll.
Yeah, they're mentioning my name every half an hour, and they even mentioned I was on vacation. So, like, Nano Sciucco was coming down from Lake George to meet, you know, Ricky Medlock and stuff. And the first thing I did when I got home is I called a friend of mine and got on the phone with his older brothers because I think I knew like vaguely of Highway Song and Train, and I'm like, I need to learn more Blackfoot in like the next day because this thing's tomorrow.
So you wanted to brush up on what he did.
I just wanted to brush up on like his catalog a little bit.
This is way before he was in Leonard Skinner, obviously.
But yeah, I think he joined Skinner in '96. Although some people, do you know that he was a drummer on some of the first Skinner tracks?
No, I did not know that.
He was one of Leonard Skinner's first drummers.
Oh.
Yeah, if you look at the album First and Last, it's a very, very young Ricky Medlock. He's got like his arm up on this pole, and he's credited for drums.
You know what's so wild is that when I lived in Texas for a little bit, we're going back to your story.
Yeah.
I actually went to a club down in, I was living in Houston, always trying to do something to further my career. So I was down in Houston, and I went to this club somewhere, I think it was in Pasadena, called the Cactus Club. My buddies took me there, and Ricky Blackfoot was playing there, the original lineup, you know, with the four guys. And I remember being in this club, not a lot of people, but my God, they were so amazing. They were such a kicking band. And then later on, of course, I played a bunch of shows with them. You know, afterwards, they got Ken Hensley from Uriah Heep playing keyboards and stuff.
That's when I met them.
Oh, okay.
Right around that time, yeah.
So what was that like for you to meet at that young of an age, meeting Ricky Medlock? Because I think he's I think he's a pretty good. I hung out with him. Let's just say I'm not going to say what I did, but we hung out.
Well, as a young kid, I just remember being very, very nervous. It was a very nervous setting, you know, kind of feeling shaky and nervous because here I am with this amazing guitar player, and I'm just starting out. I don't really know how to play too many things, and he's trying to show me some things, and my hands are kind of quivering, you know. So I'm like, I was just starstruck by this guy because I have no experience and nothing like that. And then, you know, when he is just talking about, you know, hanging out with Eddie Van Halen, who I just thought, you know, at the time, you're 14 years old, like Eddie's everything to you, and like, what do you mean you hung out with Eddie Van Halen? And but it's funny, I think it was like everything just seemed really dreamy, like I was in a fog. But I think about the things that he said even years later, how he talked about, which meant nothing to me at the time, but the Hamer guitar he had was custom, and how he took the humbucker and on Eddie Van Halen's recommendation, like did some extra windings. You know, wrapping extra coil, which then, you know, you read about later in life, but I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but now I understand it. You know, these pickups weren't hot enough, so these guys were modding them themselves.
Right.
And so I thought that kind of stuff was interesting. And I do remember something kind of neat with the Locking Floyd. He strung his strings backwards, so he put the ball right. He just jammed the ball right up here, and then just clipped off.
And clipped
what
off
you
down there.
needed.
I've seen a bunch of people do that,
I've
actually. I
never
don't know
seen
why.
it.
It's not the proper way to do it, but I've seen, I have seen people do that before. So did you win the guitar, too? You won that guitar that you have in the case. It's a PV.
No, it's a Ibanez Roadstar.
Oh, Ibanez Roadstar.
So,
your PV's your first guitar that you don't you have a PV guitar in your case?
No, that's
okay.
it's the Ibanez Roadstar. You know what?
It is the Ibanez Roadstar.
It looks like a PV, those T series that
Yes.
those students would start on back then because it's natural. It almost
That's
has
why.
that look, but it is a Roadstar too. It's like which was a very mediocre instrument at the time, but I played it all through like high school.
Yeah, but you know what? Though those Roadstars, even though that at the time that was considered a mediocre instrument, those things, if you go back and look at it, they're very, very well built compared to what later on, what inexpensive guitars had come out, past, So like I have a Roadstar that when my daughter was going to play guitar a little bit, it was a righty guitar someone gave me, and it happened to be an Ibanez Roadstar. So she was playing on that. And I used to look at this thing and go, man, this thing's like built really well. The neck's nice on it.
The neck's really nice. It's still, even to this day, the neck and the guitar feel really solid. I think the pickups are meh, but
yeah,
that's an easy fix. Nowadays, that's the hard part is finding, the pieces of wood that feel really good.
Yeah,
the electronics are kind of like, that's easy to do. You
can replace anything on a guitar, but the neck has got to, like I said, when I walked in and they threw this guitar into my hand because I was the only left-handed guy, and this, I didn't, I just picked this up and I said, geez, I noticed right away that I liked it. It's a clubbier neck. It's more thicker than the necks that I normally use on all my PVX guitars because those are, all custom done for me, and that's why I use those all live. Mm-hmm. But this, I was saying, Jesus, this is nice feeling, a little bit different. So that's how I ended up wanting to keep that because regardless, you could change anything else on here. I mean, I could strip this whole guitar out, put better pickups, a better tremolo, different tuners, but as long as this neck is the same, then, that's what's going to really count. So let's move forward. Let's talk about lessons.
Sure.
Or either that or before I do that, who were some of your influences before you, like as you started getting a guitar, was Eddie like your main guy? See, I come from a different era, so my main guys, like Eddie was someone that came along way after I had already developed my technique. So was Eddie one of your first guys, or did you like other players prior?
I mean, it's probably literally within months when I really caught the Eddie bug, like trying to understand it. I think maybe because I had two older sisters, I latched on to Jimmy Page first.
Okay.
Very much so. It was Jimmy
Well, that's
Page,
good.
and then Eddie and oddly Carlos Santana was huge.
Oh.
He's the one guitar player I've seen more than anybody. I've seen Carlos live.
I didn't know you were into Carlos.
Dozen times.
Fabulous.
Dozen times. Yeah, I don't play anything like him, but he was just somebody that just made it sing to me.
His performance at Woodstock is one of my favorite. Alvin Lee, 10 years after, and Carlos, Sly and the Family Stone. People always say to me, oh, Jimi Hendrix, you must love the thing. I go, yeah, Jimmy was incredible, the whole Star Spangled Banner thing and everything. But I said, that's not really, believe it or not, I hope you don't hate me, but wasn't my favorite performance at Woodstock. Alvin Lee's I'm Going Home was just amazing. And Carlos, the way that they did Soul Sacrifice and the drum solo that Michael did is still one of my favorite drum solos ever that you could watch. I mean, it was amazing. It was like a Buddy Rich drum solo, almost.
They always played from here. They always were very, very soulful. So Carlos was a big one. And honestly, the Ricky Medlock, I think, was happening like in the background, like almost like I didn't realize it. It wasn't in my forefront. But meeting him kicked off like all of this Southern rock. And even today, like Southern rock is still one of my favorite forms of music to play.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that too.
Yeah, because and then all of a sudden I started listening to Marshall Tucker and the Allman Brothers and Skinner.
What was the guitar player's name? Troy
Caldwell?
Yeah, so he didn't even use a pick.
No,
he used to use
thumb guy. Yeah.
But he used to do some really whipping chops with just his thumb.
And it was just their songs to me were fun. And a lot of the Southern rock catalog is
I used to love playing. I was in some some band that played over, in East Hartford at that club at Gilo's where I
Oh,
used
yeah,
to play
yeah.
all the time.
I remember that.
And one of the bands, I think they were called Ragtop Deluxe, I used to do a Ramblin', and man, they used to let me just take off on a solo section because when they when it goes down to the oh, my guitar backwards. That whole thing. Yeah. They used to just let me fly on that for as long as I wanted to, and like there's so much you could do over just those two chords. Yeah, Marshall Tucker had amazing songs.
If I had to, maybe sum it up, I think most of the Southern rock genre, I mean, there is some melodramatic tunes in there, but like it's almost like when you wanted to break from some of the melodrama of rock or rock lyrics, and I'll use Pink Floyd as an example, which I love Pink Floyd, but when you just kind of like, I don't want to think too much about these lyrics. I just want, it's like a breath of fresh air. Just put on some Southern rock.
Do you consider
like just put on some Southern rock and it's like, like.
Before I talk about other bands from the Southern rock era,
sure.
I'm going to take a second to do another segment of Inside the Gig Bag, and we'll be right back to you. Everybody, welcome to another segment of Inside the Gig Bag, and we're talking an octave pedal here. So this is on an old Boss ME70 multi-effects pedal that I have, but I absolutely love the octave sound. It is so cool to mess around with, and you can really get some really cool things as you just heard there. So I am going to turn off the gain though as well, so you could hear that this thing is great, even clean. Yeah, man, what a cool little effect. But, you can go all over with this thing, and, for, great little sounds in your high notes. It's very, very cool, man. But what I really love, obviously, is the nastiness you get when you turn on the overdrive. So. That's what I'm talking about. You hear the nastiness? I'm talking nasty, man. Anyways, just have a little fun. If you ever get a chance to check one out, please do. Thanks for watching another segment of Inside the Gig Bag. All right, we're back. Thanks again for joining me. All right, you're out of here.
Pleasure.
No,
Okay.
I'm only kidding. We were talking about Southern rock bands.
Yep.
And do you consider like a band, like there's so many hardcore, you know, when you talk about Molly Hatchet and you know, Leonard Skinner and stuff like that, do you consider a band like ZZ Top a Southern band? Or more of like they're just so, I mean, yes, they're from the South and they play like, you know, they're like a heavy rock Southern band to me. I don't know. It's just so crazy.
I mean, I'm not.
I've seen them
I'm
a
not
bunch of times.
Yeah, I'm not the you know, the official to say this is labeled this or this is labeled that.
No.
I don't put them in the same category. I just think they're more like they just got more of a blues. Don't they call it like Texas blues? Like
Yeah, Texas rock or something.
rock. And it's more that for my personal taste, I like the bands that kind of have a little bit more dip in the country, like
get you.
kind of thing. So even though Marshall Tucker was almost jazz, like some of the chords they used, but jazz, that country, I'm a huge Outlaws fan. To me, they're very unique.
I wish they had more.
know?
I mean, everybody knows Green Grass and High Tides, but man, that song in itself is just absolutely amazing. The soloing in that at the section that they do at the end there and everything is just mind blowing. You know, it's always been a great song.
And even if you pick apart some of their other tunes, even a song like "There Goes Another Love Song," you know, which is just one of their more pop, you know, that. Like when that's the only time I've seen that lick and had to play that, you know.
Yeah, I love that.
That's so cool. That's Huey Thomason. I mean, he just had his own unique way of picking, and so big Outlaws fan.
Yeah.
You know? So I think of Southern rock. I think of the Outlaws. I think of Skinner and Tucker, and you know. Skinner more like the hits, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're almost like the Beatles-esque of the Southern rock, where the Outlaws to me are like that B-band that has...
They certainly are known for that genre of music, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's move ahead.
Let's go.
So,
what else we got?
let's go. Enough of talking about that stuff.
Yeah, right?
All right, let's move into the 80s,
Sure.
when you met me. All right, so tell me about... tell me about my meeting or how you met me, or because I don't even know. I had to ask you to remind me if I gave you, in my mind, I sort of remembered giving you guitar lessons for a little bit at some point.
About 6 months.
About 6 months. Okay.
Yeah. So this part of the story you don't know, so I'll fill you in. I was playing with a high school band at the Bridges Cafe on like some sort of all ages thing. It's all ages night. We were just playing covers, and we were probably pretty terrible, but we were about 16 years old, just old enough to drive and get ourselves there. I think some of the guys in the band were younger even than 16. And there was a few high school bands, and I don't know if they were just a guest, but this band called Red Rum. Did you remember David Hopowitz?
Yeah,
Dave
I remember Red Rum.
And I don't know how old Dave is or how much older than me he is. He might only be a couple years, but when you're 16, even if he was 18 or 19, he was already this person that was so much older. And I just remember him being really excited to talk to us young kids. You know, like, so we're outside that door afterwards, and he's just educating us on all this stuff. And we knew nothing about local bands. We knew nothing. We thought the Red Run was amazing, incredible. We loved it all. And he starts talking about all these players. And I distinctly remember him saying, "You got to go check out Doug Blair from Run 21." And he's Dave, you know Dave Hopowitz?
Yeah.
You know, he's all excitable. He's looking at you with these wide eyes. And he's telling me about the ray guns. He's got these, toys built into the guitar. And I'm like, I got to go see this, And then he mentioned your name. And I remember saying, I have no idea who that is. And he's like, oh, okay, I need to introduce you to this scene here. You don't know who Doug Blair is. You don't know who Jimi Bell is. Like, where have you been, kid? That kind of thing. It was a great conversation. So I immediately was with a good guitar teacher, a very traditional, older, trying to teach me the basics. And I was getting a little antsy and bored, and I kind of wanted to learn how to, someone's gonna talk. Can we talk about it that at least? Like, how do we do this stuff?
Yeah.
And so I went to go see Doug Blair at the 190s in Enfield, and was just blown away by his stage performance and him.
Oh yeah, Dougie's a mental case.
So I found out, he teaches at this little store up in East Windsor. So I went and signed up with him. And you were on my radar, but I think you were either full or with students, or you were away in England or something.
I might have been over with Geezer.
I think so, because when I ended up taking lessons from you, you had just come back.
Oh, okay.
I know you had just been back there, so you were both, on my radar.
Did I have my English accent then?
No, but
No,
I do remember the white boots. I remember the white boots you were wearing, and we were talking about.
I never wore white boots.
They were
No,
white, and you said you got them in England. And so that's how that started. So I took with Doug, and it was great. Doug was fantastic. And then I signed up with you, and I've said this before. I wasn't a good student with any guitar teacher that I had. I didn't have the discipline to really, you show me something and I go home and I just practice it.
Well, I'm gonna just stop you there for 1 second, because I've had so many people always, wanting to take guitar lessons from me because they see me play, they see the picking that I do, they see my technique, and I totally get it. They say, okay, I'm gonna take lessons with Jimmy, and I'm gonna do that. But it's like I am a self-taught player. I took a few lessons in my life, so everything that you've ever heard me do, though, all the insane picking or whatever, tapping, everything, that was all just for me sitting with the guitar in my hand for hours and hours. Even when later on in life when I was learning country stuff, nobody showed me. This was just stuff that I wanted to learn, and experimenting and doing things on my own. So I feel bad for you and other people, because I've never considered myself a teacher, because I'm not schooled. I wasn't a schooled player, a teacher, and for me to explain to a student what I'm doing, it's like I know how to do it, but for me to explain to you what I'm doing, or even try to write it out on paper, it just looks like a bunch of things going like up. It's like they're exercises for people to practice, but as far as me being a great teacher, I never was, because I just
So,
go ahead. Let me have it.
No, on one hand, I agree with you to a point, because I was a 16-year-old kid that said, "Hey, if I take lessons from this guy, I'm going to end up playing like this guy, right? Like maybe in a year."
Yeah.
Like it was just foolish thinking, and until you get older, you realize you teach yourself, and you have to sit down and discipline yourself. But there's another side to that. That what I did learn from you and players like Doug and many, many others over the years is just being around players who know the instrument far better than I do, or even if it's just in a different angle, as I got better, you do learn things. And sometimes you learn about yourself. You learn what you're not. Like, I don't have the same technique that you do, or even Doug, or I can name, other guys. And it's like, because something in the back of me was telling me, I don't say you don't want it, but you're kind of going after your own thing. You don't even realize it. You're doing your own thing. It's like the clearest example I can use is jazz. I've probably a dozen times from the time I was a kid, even probably till a few years ago, I have to sit down. I just have to learn this jazz, and I could fake my way through a couple of chords, convince you that maybe for a minute I know what I'm doing, but I really don't. And it dawned on me one day. I said, you don't listen to jazz. You don't listen to it. So,
it's got to
be. You're telling yourself you want to learn this because it's like a checkbox. That's what you should do as a guitar player. You should learn jazz because that's the right thing to do. And I'm like, but if you don't listen to it, what's the point? Like, how am I really gonna ingrain what chord comes after this one if I don't listen to it?
People have told me,
it's not that I don't like it.
You can play anything you want to play and stuff like that. I said, I can't play classical. I said, I can't even come close to playing a classical guitar. I said, I can't either. I said, if I picked it up, I would use a pick and just do exactly what I do on an electric on a classical. I said, that's not playing classical. I said, I never, that's something where your head has to be like, if you wanted to learn something like classical guitar, you got to go to a classical guitar teacher and you got to study that frame of music, because that is a whole different style. You got your guitar like this. It's all finger style,
But that's the same for a rock player, like you said. Like if I really wanted to mimic your technique, I have to do what you did, and it doesn't. It almost doesn't make sense for somebody else. Like,
I know.
you know what I'm saying? Like, or if I want to play just like this guy or just like that guy, and then I realized over the years, well, there's a lot of things I picked up, and I don't even realize that I picked it up. So,
well, see, you're fortunate enough that the age that you are, and I know I talked to Greg about this on one of the last shows, is that I find that too many guitar players, especially young guys, concentrate too much on wanting to play some other guy's stuff note for note. In other words, look at this Yngwie solo I could do note for note, or look at this Randy Rhoads solo, or whoever your favorite guitar player, George Lynch, whatever it is. And I think a lot of times they spend a real lot of time on that as opposed to creating their own style. And I know they're young and they're so impressed by, oh, look what I could do. I learned this, but I didn't do that. I learned I wanted to learn a few Ritchie Blackmore solos, but I didn't have the tools to learn it. It wasn't like what they have today. So I was, trying to learn it by going back and forth with a record needle, but I never had any of the things exactly right. So what I did was I did what I thought sounded close, and then I made up my own thing. When I play Highway Star, I don't play it even in the position that Ritchie Blackmore played it, because I never saw a video of him play it. Like he does that, that part down here. I do it up here. I mean, that's how I just happened to learn it.
Right.
And I never changed it after I saw how he played it. It was just like, hey, this works. I learned it like this. Why am I going to change it? But that just goes to show that I think what you did was you found what you really knew, that you fell into an element that that you could play, where you feel comfortable and everything else. So you created your own style. I mean, we've done a couple of those videos that Mark Tannenbaum has given us, and we've played that where we actually do a section, and then it's me, and then whether Tony Spotter or whatever, and those are a lot of fun. But when I watch it, I go, wow, look at Nano playing stuff. So
that's huge coming from you.
Yeah, well, no, it's true.
That.
So I mean, but you have your own style. This is what I'm trying to tell you. It's like when you play, you're playing something you're very comfortable with, and it doesn't sound like, it's not like, oh, he's playing like George Lynch, or, he's doing all of, this and that. You're playing, your style. You learned how to be comfortable with your playing, which is great. So I guess I want to know, with that being said, let's go into what was your first band? And then let's talk about your bands, because...
First band, all
right, don't worry about your first
band. There's too many, so if I had to...
Let's start with
If I had to speed up the process, it was when I turned like 18, 19, and I was playing with a cover rock band called Are You Easy?
Oh, yeah. And Are You Easy?
Yeah.
I remember that.
Jimmy and Tim and the bass player.
I actually saw you play out.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Yeah,
you did. And
see?
Well, because
even though it was the 80s, I still...
That was 18, 19, and we were like... it's funny, we never got to open for Joint Forces, but we did for oh boy, there's a band I can't think of, Vice, and like a lot of the other bands. Just the schedules never lined up. It's funny because the schedules just never lined up. But we were a good opening, warm up the crowd kind of a band. A lot of Van Halen, a lot of stuff. So that was the first band that I started getting the road miles in clubs playing. Then I dabbled with some original bands, because again, I thought that's what I am supposed to do. Well, I don't think I was really into it. Looking back on it, I realized that I wasn't really made, I'm not comfortable in a room and we're writing parts, and I'm like, I'm just almost too...
Let me just tell you, if the music scene didn't change as drastic as it has, original bands were the right. I mean, Joint Forces was one of the first bands to do all original music without doing a single cover. When we came back out in '84, when Mark Diamond came back from California, and we came out with that, and we were doing an hour and a half. We had 2 warm-up bands. So original music was huge, but then nowadays it's like, what? It's all tribute. I'm in a tribute band. I mean,
yeah, we'll get to that too, because I embraced that whole thing. But even when I was younger, even when some of the players my age were embracing original music, there was something that was fighting me in it, and I can't really put my finger on it. I just wasn't very comfortable. I never a songwriter, and someone would have to almost have the song like 90% complete and say, you kind of have to just fill in the blanks here with some guitar parts. And then even then I'd go, well, can you kind of hum to me what kind of parts you need? Because it's like, it almost feels like labor to me to figure this out. I'm like, and then when I do figure something out, the first thing I do is compare it to a cover song that I already know. So I start scrapping my idea. I'm like, oh, that's just this tune that I've already. Oh, I can't do that. So I got on this wheel of it just being like, this isn't very comfortable.
Well, let's go into Southern Comfort.
So that was the first tribute band that I ever did. Now, it wasn't a tribute band as in one band. We did do the genre of Southern rock, but we decided that we were going to embrace not just the music but the look. Like, okay, we are going to dress the the guitars that the Southern rockers use. We're going to make sure that the person who's going to come out is going to see, Strats and Les Pauls, and you know what I mean. And if the Total X on the amp needs to be a little beat up, we're going to make sure it's beat up, and we're going to, and I, of course, Mother Nature took my hair, so I would do the wig thing.
No.
And I had no problem with that. That was like very. We're
going to talk about that more.
Because it's to me, I've always embraced that and had a lot of fun with it. It's like you don't take. I always took what I was doing seriously, but not myself seriously. And I'm like, this is entertainment. We're performing, so every part of this is for entertainment. I want the person watching the band to go, I'm having a great time. I'm thoroughly entertained, not just by the music, and of course, the music's first. We got to be serious about what you're playing, and
you got to be great with the music.
Make sure the harmonies are there. Make sure all the parts are there. But then you're here to watch us. There's a visual involved here, so I dress the part and always have a lot of fun with that.
I'm glad you brought that up now. So let's move on, because I want to talk about the studio thing. Your studio as well, before time gets run out.
Sure.
I want to talk about Raise Your Hands. So that's your band. You are in a Bon Jovi tribute band, a really good Bon Jovi tribute band as well.
Thank you.
And you guys are really taking off, and you guys dress the whole part and everything. And I remember, like, when you first started it. Oh, first off, you look great. You lost a lot of weight. On top of that, you dropped like half.
Well, I had to, but that's another story.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you came out, you were, you wore the wig because you play Richie Sambora.
Sure.
You got the hat and everything. And before the show aired today, you were telling me, I loved your description of it, of what you feel about wearing the wig and everything. Why don't you let the audience know that? Because to me, that was the best description of what it could possibly be.
I hope I quote myself. It's only 20 minutes ago, but I think what I said was, it's like it's no different than preparing for like a play or a theater show.
Yeah.
Right? It's a costume. It's like if you were doing a play and it's whatever.
If you're doing a
play about the
Broadway
Civil War,
show,
you're going to go get this. You're going to get a jacket, and you're going to go do that. If it's a Broadway show, so it's like I just feel like I'm playing the part of Richie Sambora. That's the whole idea. I want to have an essence. Hence the guitar. I brought my Raise Your Hands guitar.
Yeah. So that's that is the Richie Sambora.
Nope.
This one. Oh, you didn't bring a Richie Sambora.
I don't have a quote unquote Richie Sambora model. So
you're off the show.
I'm off the show, right? So
cancel. No, go ahead.
Fortunately for me, if you kind of go back, and which I did, and look at Richie's guitars, he changed often enough, which was really nice because it didn't like pigeonhole me into one guitar.
No.
I could play anything.
Well, the star inlays.
The same thing with his amps, and the star inlays were him for a while, and then he even ditched those after a while. But he's got a signature Strat, he's got this Kramer, and he's got this. So I said, well, that's fortunate for me. I can just dress a guitar up to do the job. So the first thing I took care of, because I wanted to be able to play it, is what guitar is going to feel comfortable to me. And I love the Charvels. I've got a
They're
few of
great.
these. I've got a few of these now. I've got Humbucker, and I got this.
I've
one
got
recently.
two of them. I think the necks on Charvels are beautiful.
Yeah, but talk about costume, and it's not much different than a wig. I mean, these are stickers. These are not. Yeah.
They don't come off?
No, they come off if you peel them off. But I buy a few sets, and every couple times a year I clean the neck thoroughly, and get all the glue off and all the gunk, and put them on. And it's just, it's again, it's for the entertainment, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you thought it was a Sambora, and you're right here. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
mean, look,
I want someone to come to the show, and they're seeing me from, they're not usually this close to me, at least I hope not, and they're like, oh, the guy's exuding Richie Sambora. He's got the hat on and the hair.
Well,
and
that's
the stars,
kind of really
and it's like
important.
cool.
And like I know when the band first got together, you had so many questions to me about the whole thing and everything, and
Still do sometimes.
yeah,
Still
you
call
still do. I mean, about gig, what should be, what to expect, what should we do, but you guys have like really escalated, like, and to me, in a very short period. I mean, you went from doing some, club gigs that you were, not really happy with, but you were getting the band out there. Now it's like casinos and theaters and stuff. So that's huge progress with that. And I've seen videos of your band, like when you play down at the Wolf Den and everything, and it's mobbed.
We do well there. We do really well.
I mean, that's got to make you feel good. But once again, we're back at how the music scene has changed so much, because it seems like the only thing that's really attracting like large audiences now are tribute bands. Like you take a band like I had Gary Fox on, who was from Physical Graffiti, and he's in Beyond Purple. But we were talking about how Physical was really one of the first tribute bands that I ever knew of. I mean, because they were doing that back in the early '80s. So they were, they actually went over to Europe and everything with that. And then Back in Black, Mick, Tony, and all those guys, they got that band together like in '89. And they've been doing AC/DC, Back in Black all these years, and are still doing it even stronger than ever. So it's just weird that the tribute thing took off so huge. And one of the things that was like, that really, blew my mind recently was the guys from the Metallica tribute band, the Four Horsemen. And I've met them, wonderful guys, but they just played the arena at Mohegan Sun. So here in my mind, I'm going like, this is a tribute to Metallica, and they're playing in the arena. And I'm going like, that is really wild when you think about it, because usually just national big acts play in the arena part, So
right.
It's just.
I don't know. I mean, I could take a stab at that, but I'm not really sure what the reasoning is. Sometimes I say, well, these bands like Metallica or any big 80s, 90s, 80s band, 90s band, whatever, Bon Jovi, they hit their stride, and when they hit their stride, they were an arena band, right? When they came around here, they were going to be in arena. They weren't going to play a small place. They were going to play a huge place, and maybe that's just the thing. That's what an audience, a spectator remembers. Maybe that's what they're expecting. It's like, I'm comfortable. I want to see this band in a big place. The small club thing isn't for me.
I also think a lot of the time,
all the people,
when the Seattle sound came, all the new music in the early '90s, and it just wiped out all the hair metal bands, and like there were so many people fans of that, especially girls. You had Poison, Motley Crue, Bon Jovi. They were huge fans of that, huge draws to that music. So I think nowadays when bands come out that are, like John's band that does, a mixture of everything, of Poison and,
John Durso,
when
Backstage
his
Pass,
whole,
when
his band does a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
And then you have the bands that are dedicated to one band, like your band, or a Motley Crue band, or something. Poison, my buddy Frank who sings for Shot of Poison.
Shot of Poison, yeah, we know him very
great,
well. Yeah.
Great band.
Yeah.
So these bands are drawing huge. So I think a lot of the people from that time frame are want to go back and just really relive those memories of the music that they love so much, and they're filling these places.
Yeah, it's our, closer to our demographic anyway, our age group. I do like to mention this because, hopefully this is refreshing to hear for younger kids, because I have kids that are musicians. My daughter
doing well.
Yeah, they're doing really well. My daughter's in college and studying to be a music teacher. My son's 23 and he's playing drums with an original band, and it's an all original band, and
with a record deal.
Not a record deal. It's a distribution deal, and they're cooking along. So something that's refreshing that maybe I wouldn't have seen or paid attention to is, I first few times I went out to see him, we're going to either New York City or Boston, and it's him and maybe another band, and this is all original music, an original band, and you walk into this club, and granted, my wife and I are the oldest ones in the club. You know what I mean? We're the chaperones, but it's wall-to-wall kids. And I say, oh, I've done this before when I was 20, 22.
But it's also the music that they're playing.
But all I'm saying is it's there.
Yeah.
We just don't. People closer to our age just don't realize it's there. It's happening there. It's just everyone in that place is in their early 20s, so you don't realize. Like when I went to the whatever it was, the Mercury Lounge in New York City, I'm like, yeah, it took a while to get across the room.
Yeah.
Because they're all kids.
Well, there's
just a bunch of kids. So it is nice to know there is a scene out there for
there is also
kids.
Bands too that are like one of the big bands that's out that I think is great is I think they're called Dirty Honey or something like that.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, they're kind of like doing some of the 70s hard rock. It's almost got that type vibe to it. And it's just great to see things like that happening. Like some bands are actually coming out, but they're going towards like maybe late 70s and some early, some of the 80s type vibe. And there seems to be a crowd that's accepting that now, especially, like they get them on the cruises and, there's just so much. But before we run out of time, which is happening real quick, I just wanted to, you saved me many times.
I saved you.
You saved me many times.
Well, this goes back and forth.
Yeah. Well,
a lot of
ever since, when BJ, ended up getting and docking and stuff, and I used to do all my recording over there, when it came time to do the, House of Lords stuff or the autograph stuff, and I didn't even have my studio, you graciously opened your house to me to let me come in and record all my parts, whatever I had to do over your studio, and I thank you very much for that. But then you actually did the whole thing of getting my computer loaded with the exact, the same software.
Your own home studio, yeah.
My own home studio, and I'm very grateful that you did that because I used it like crazy as soon as you did that, and I got the hang of it, and I called you all the time, like, it's not, I was forgetting things. I wrote so many songs within a short period of time, like, 300 songs and stuff like that, just bang, bang, bang. And then I got to a point where after I did all that and sent a bunch out, it's like I have all these songs sitting in a file, and I'm going, I haven't even sat down behind that studio again in so long that I don't even know if I would know how to turn the thing on again, because it's like...
So you got my number.
And my mind is going like, why am I doing all this if it's not like, Yeah. So it's just one of those things, but I just wanted to take that few minutes before we go out and say thank you so much for opening your home for me.
Oh, pleasure.
Because it was a great learning curve, and I really appreciated a real lot. You helped me in so many ways. But you were a fabulous guest. We talked a lot.
Yeah.
I actually thought it was going to be a little bit difficult. Sometimes I never know what my guest is going to be like to draw things out of, but you were very informative, and then things just kept coming to me.
I'm an Italian talker. I just tell
you. Oh, yeah, we're both Italian.
Yeah.
That makes the show good right there.
45-minute goodbyes at the front door. Hey, I'll be here till next Thursday. No problem.
Anyway, Nano, I can't thank you enough for being on here.
Absolute pleasure.
And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. This is Jimi Bell, and I'll see you next time right here at Jimi Bell Studios. Only kidding. RHCTV Studios.